Good evening. This is Joseph Millay from Watchdog Family Protection Services. You know, I told you people that I would keep you apprised of a court case that involved myself and a prosecutor in Charleston, West Virginia named Ryan Ball. I'm suing her because she decided to, on her own, to put an end to a investigation by a detective. I'm not going to mention his name because he's a really great guy and this is not his fault, but when she put an end to that investigation, she caused my family great harm. So I went to court. It was before Judge Richard Lindsay, and even though the laws that I presented made it very clear, she does not, because when you get involved as a prosecutor in an investigative way, you lose your right to immunity. Well, that's really what the case was about yesterday. It was about her being immune, and of course she's not, but the judge still ruled in her favor, said she is immune. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, the concept of immunity is not real. The only reason these people are immune is because judges like Richard Lindsay are allowing them immune. So what we're doing is we're going to go ahead and we're going to move forward and have we're going to the state Supreme Court. We're going to appeal the case, and I'm quite confident based on the actual laws of the land that it'll be overturned. Not to mention, I'm not going to sue her again in state court. I'm going to sue her in a federal court because sometimes I just feel more comfortable with that. Well, that being said, there's this caseworker. Her name is Christina Farmer. She's out of Fayetteville, and she's made the news. And we're trying to figure out. We want to emphasize the fact that she's innocent until proven guilty, but there's a lot of so-called evidence that suggests that she's been acting improper. Apparently, she got caught with the gun illegally, or she did something with the gun illegally. I don't know exactly what the circumstances are, but I put a post out there. I reposted because it went online around about 3-4 days ago, and the very next day they took it down. CPS took it down because they didn't want the bad publicity, but we ended up taking a snapshot. Etta will be showing her picture when she gets on because we have her picture. Look, and I gotten so much response because I put an ad out there asking for people to come forward that dealt with her. My phone rang off the hook. I've had at least 5 different people that had a horrible experience with her, and I can't even count how many emails I got in relation to her. Look, the thing is, what we're trying to do at Watchdogs Family Protection Services, we're trying to out the people because, see, this Christina, she even had a couple emails that came out that suggested that she's a really good person. I know her personally from friends and family of hers. And look, we want people to understand, especially CPS workers, guardian ad litems, judges, attorneys, that our job at Watchdogs is to let people know what you really do when you go to work. We don't want people to think that when you come home you're Miss Daisy May, because you're not. If you're doing things that are causing people harm, if you're lying, cheating, and deceiving in court, we are going to out you. If you're causing harm to our families, just like Judge Richard Lindsay. By the way, he's only been in office since January of this year, and already he's caught on to the routine at 111 Court Street. Because every single judge I've dealt with, except for Judge Hardy, he's the only one, they've never given us an opportunity to actually present our case properly. And even when we did present it properly, they didn't care about the situation that it caused. They could care less about the harm it's brought my family. And they always resort to this ridiculous concept of immunity. So once we get past this immunity stage, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, we're going to be able to make a lot of lawsuits. That's going to be the key to us progressing as an organization. So that being said, I'm going to pull Etta on. She's my partner, of course. Let me see here. I always have a problem doing this. Okay. Hey, Michael, help me do this real quick. For some reason, it's not coming up right. Oh, maybe it's up here on top.
What are you looking for?
Maybe it's right here. Okay, I got it. I'm adding edit. Thank you. That's my son, Michael. Okay, I'm adding Etta. We're going to be interviewing a grandfather today. His name is Anna. Uh, he's just a
Hello.
great guy. How you doing, Etta?
Doing good.
As I was talking, I said we're going to be interviewing an older man. He's my age. His name is Danny. He's out of Oak Hill, West Virginia. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, another victim of CPS in the court system right here out of West Virginia. Etta, I was talking about Christina Farmer. Do you have her picture?
Yes, I do, and I will try to add it into the chat.
Okay, but why don't you just show it for just purposes for now? Just put it up
If
there.
you, anybody on want to take a screenshot of this, so you have it. Let me turn my ring light off so you can get a better picture. And that's the list of her charges. Here, I can lower it down so you can get a list of the charges.
Now, the reason we're doing this, ladies and gentlemen, is because we want you. I'm telling you right now. When I said earlier, our phone rang off the hook. If you were out there and you've had an interaction with Christina Farmer, good, bad, or indifferent,
Right.
feel free to call 304-205-3869 or get on my podcast discussion. We're going to be interviewing several people, by the way, on our podcast live in the very near future in relation to her and other CPS workers that are what we perceive as problematic, in our opinion, anyway. Etta, I was talking briefly earlier in my opening statement about my lawsuit the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get crazy on it, but Richard Lindsay was the new judge, and you know that he's just been in office since January of this year.
Right.
How do you feel about him dismissing my case based on immunity? How do you feel about that?
Well, that's why I asked what was his what was the law, what was the statute, what was the code that he was using to dismiss your case. Because no one has full immunity. You simply don't. And especially in situations like this, and if you're operating under the color of law, for instance, that is definitely something that does not protect you, makes you liable. If you lie, if you withhold evidence, all that stuff is crucial. And if you're going on a criminal route, which I know you're going on a civil route, but you have motion of discovery, and even in civil suits, you will go through a motion of discovery, which means that you're going to depose witnesses. I mean, I'm going through it, I know. So any evidence that is not turned over that you have, that's not legit. I mean, and
Would
every government employee, everyone, every magistrate, every deputy, every judge, everything, they're bonded. Find out who bonds Kanawha County judges, who's their bond, because they are bonded by a bond company.
would you
And
agree that the concept of immunity, in terms of the judges having knowledge of this, is elementary? I mean, this is like, I don't think it's a complicated issue because it's something that's so obvious. There's so many laws pertaining to immunity and the lack thereof, what causes you to lose your immunity. So that being the case, what, in your opinion now, why would Judge Richard Lindsay, rule in her favor, in your opinion?
in my opinion, he's a new judge. He just stepped into office. Number one. Number two, because he just stepped into office. So, you know, when you have judges of 30 years in that office versus you step in 5 months, and they're being like, hey, we got this guy and he's got us dragging us into federal court on a federal suit. We're want A, B, C, D done. You're going to do one of two things. You're going to uphold the law, and your morals are going to kick in, and you're going to do what is right by the law and what is morally right, or you're going to not rock the boat so you can win another election.
See,
But
it's a rock the boat concept, I think, because honestly, yes, he's a new judge, but he's been a very experienced attorney for many years, so he knows the rules on immunity.
well, he does know the
He
rules.
knows
I'm
the rules.
still shook with him not providing you, or the other side not providing precedent as into why they were immune and why they did what they did. You filed a specific motion asking specific questions about things being withheld. You have to respond to those answers. Now, can a judge do what they want to do? Absolutely, because they are the judge. Can they be held responsible? Absolutely.
Let me ask you this question, Etta, because you're a pretty smart one. Uh, how do you feel about a prosecutor putting an end to an investigation that, if allowed to be produced in court, she never even produced any of it into court? How do you feel about the reason a prosecutor would do something like that? Do you think it's malicious? Do you think it's
No,
accidental? Do you?
no, it's intentional.
It's
It's
very
intentional.
intentional.
And there's only two reasons it's going to be intentional. It's going to be they are the prosecutor and they've been in the know and they're furthering their political career. So therefore, they're not going to go against, say, an appointed judge there, for instance, came up to them. This is somebody who has been appointed, and I'm just using this as a reference because I don't know. But they're not running. They weren't appointed. They're not going to lose their position, period.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
that, but at the same time, as a prosecutor, you're supposed to bring forth all exculpatory evidence, any kind of evidence, whether it's good, bad,
Anything
or
that is
indifferent.
criminal and the allegations made are criminal.
They,
They are
they
not
are criminal.
civil.
Well,
They are not civil. When you deal with child and sexual abuse, that is criminal. Period.
as
Point
we well know,
blank.
but as we well know, what they've been doing to several people, including us, because they can't prove you at a criminal level, because that's beyond a reasonable doubt. They reduce it to a civil case, and the judge just rubber stamps it, and you're going to be found convicted in a
And
civil
there's the
suit.
problem. Our children should never be at a civil level because our children are not up for debate. Listen,
I think the standards for, and I might be radical, but I think the standards for the termination of a child or a family or a parent should be equal to that in terms of evidence of a death penalty case, because you're killing a family when you terminate
absolutely,
rights, and
100%.
it should be 100% that you have a reason to do that, not
The
you know, a
psychological,
feeling of it.
I was reading the psychological damage that happens just from the simple removal of a child. And one of the big things that it causes is multiple personality disorders that will kick it off, especially in the younger children. And it causes them to disassociate. Um,
I interviewed a woman, a young woman, about 33 years old. She had three absolutely gorgeous children, and just precious. And what they did to her is they gave her a one last opportunity to visit with her children. This was a scheduled event. You are going to be able to see your children for the very last time. How do you feel? I think that's pretty cold. I don't think I
that's
could
cruel.
I don't think I could accept an invitation like that. It would be horrible. Can you imagine that?
No, I can't. No,
It
no,
would
I
be a
couldn't.
crying session. It would be, I wouldn't even be able to
Because
breathe.
it's not only that, but it's dangerous, and it's dangerous on behalf of everyone involved in a situation like that. You're going to have people. You're literally taking the one thing away from them that makes their life, and
Absolutely,
you
all day long.
and you think you may come out of this alive. Listen, I'm not sure what world they're living in, but I know what world I'm living in. And the things that are going on now uh, is is crazy. And like I said, I was want to run this. There's a podcast. It's called The Confessionals. Get a chance, watch it. Episode 688. Man and his wife, pastor. The first time they were in their 20s. Make a long story short, they end up buying two kids in Brazil because they had set up by a dumpster. Well, now they have expanded to they have this 8,000 ranch and they have all these homes and they raise these children. They go to other countries. They've worked with the FBI, the cartel, everything. Please, it will open your eyes to a lot of things. CPS is involved in this. The government have been working with them, and this is all I'm going to say. Don't care who you voted for. That's neither here nor there. This is what the man said. The
Well, that
man
being
said we had CIA, FBI contacts the whole time Trump was in office, and they had funding. The day Joe Biden was elected, they lost their contacts. They was never able to get another contact in, and they lost their funding. Now that Trump's back in office, they have it again. So, and these are kids that are being literally, they will send kids across the border with the name, say, Joe Millay is my dad. Call this number. Border Patrol will then call that number and they say, oh, yes, that's my child. And that's it.
well, that
That's
being
how
said,
simple this is.
well, that being said, we have to talk to our
Yes,
guest
sir,
tonight.
yes.
His name is Dana. Dana, how you doing?
I'm okay.
Dana, you're out of Oak Hill, West Virginia. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Are you have you been a citizen of West Virginia your whole life?
Yeah, pretty much. Back when I was a kid, I lived in New Jersey for several years, but I was born here and raised here pretty much.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people, even when they move away, they end up coming back to WVU. It's one of or WV, the University. But the thing is you're in a situation now very similar to mine in that you have a grandchild or grandchildren involved in a CPS case. How did you come about being in a CPS case in the first place? What happened?
Well, my daughter, she evidently, her child was having problems in school, and CPS, I guess, did a home visit, and they obviously found some evidence of drug usage, and they took the child out of the home and put her in a dry out center. And it was only like 4 or 5 days, it wasn't long. And anyhow, they let him come back to the home. They wouldn't let me have him because I was right next door and I couldn't keep him away, whatnot. But anyhow, she passed about maybe a month and a half, 2 months later, after she got out of the dry out center. She passed away, and since CPS is already involved, they took my grandchild away. The day I lost my daughter is the day they took off with my grandchild.
Completely heartless. Now, here's the thing. Were you ever offered your grandchild from them from the start?
No, they they blamed it on my disability, my age, and they just they had every excuse in the world not to let me out.
What disability? What disability do you have? What disability do you have?
Well, I've had 2 neck surgeries, so I'm kind of awkward and
Okay.
I do get up on a walker, but I got a power chair, I get around pretty good.
There's a lot of parents out there that are disabled that raise kids.
That's what I'm saying. So you're how old? And I mean, you don't have to blast out your age, but let's just say you're 55. So for 55 years, so 25 years, so for 30, 40 years, you've been able to take care of yourself and make sure you have a home, pay your bills, raised your daughter, correct?
Yeah, I raised 2. I raised 2 daughters by myself.
But yet you can't raise your grandson. That's the bull crap.
Absolutely.
So, okay, they didn't give you the child. Was there anyone else in your family that was eligible to receive the child, and were they given an opportunity?
Yeah, well, they gave my daughter an opportunity, but anyhow, they they just had some little silly little crap going on, and they finally turned her down. I mean, like I say, we're not perfect, but we're family, we're blood.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's what
they
families
have
do.
their own opinions on how to raise children, as though they're an authority. It they act like they know how to raise our children better than we do. Now, this child we're talking about, were you close to that child?
Oh yeah, we were about best buddies.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
How
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 old
old?
is he?
Yeah.
He was 8 years old when my daughter
Hmm.
passed away. And he's now 11.
How was he affected by the death of his mother?
I really haven't got to talk to him a whole lot.
So you really haven't talked to him about that, huh? Wow. They took him right away. Never gave you any
Oh yeah.
no grieving together, nothing. Wow. I mean, look, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how a human being can be so heartless. I mean,
Well, but they have their own policies. And of course, if they just followed their policy, we wouldn't be in this situation and he would have his grandchild right now.
and,
Because they're
and it's
supposed
really
to
the
be
truth.
placed with next of kin.
That's the truth. Because, like we've been saying all along, the whole year that we've had this business, we said the same thing. If they just follow the laws that are in place and their own rules, we would be
We wouldn't
okay.
be here.
Just like with this lawsuit of mine. If Ryan Ball, prosecutor Ryan Ball, followed the laws, okay, of the land, I wouldn't be in this bind. I
Right.
wouldn't be in this bind. And that CPS worker that got involved in your case originally, Donna, if she followed the rules, you wouldn't be here upset because you haven't seen your grandson. And how many years has it been since you've seen your grandson?
It's been 2.
2 years.
His mother died
Mm.
actually in 2022, and they took him away. And anyhow, we went to court several times and whatnot, and finally he got in some kind of trouble at his foster parents' home, and they brought him to my house. I mean, I guess the social worker had a little bit of a heart, and before they sent him to Arkansas, she stopped by my house and we visited for about 15 minutes. That was on the 4th of May in 2023, and I haven't seen, but not even a picture of him since.
So when she brought the child over, she announced to you right then and there that this child's moving to Arkansas?
Yeah,
Whoa!
they flew him down. Yeah.
Wow.
Let me tell you something. Alex Mayer, I hope you watch this podcast if you don't watch any other. This is what's wrong. This is corruption. The DOJ in 2020 said West Virginia had 5 years to get our children back to West Virginia. They're not to go out of state. You tell me how in the hell in 2022 we're sending kids out of state.
It's
Do you have
ridiculous.
any idea? You just know he's in Arkansas and that's all?
Well, the way I had a lawyer. She was supposed to be keeping track of him. But
Yeah.
anyhow, back before this past Christmas, I wanted to try to get his father so I could send him something for Christmas. And she said that for the best interest of the child, I wasn't allowed to talk to him or send him anything, and said that they were going to send him to a better facility in Florida. So they're bouncing him around like a federal.
Oh my God.
It's not in the best interest of the child. They don't want you to talk to that child for the same reason they
'Cause
want me to talk to
they
my
don't
granddaughter.
want you
They
to
don't
know
want
what's
you to
going
know what's
on.
going on in their lives.
That's okay.
That's
That's okay. You can
all it's
always
about.
write. Listen, I'm a private investigator. Call. I get the name. I'll find out where he is for you. We'll
I
get a
would
list.
like to find out where he is.
Yes, I can.
Find out where
Yes,
he
we
is.
can. Yes, we can, and they have to give that to you.
The bottom line
You know,
is he's
I
moved to
got
now.
three
He
grandkids. My
possibly is
wife
in
like to be
Florida.
able to be involved with this one.
I don't think you should be able to move a child that far away from their family members, no matter what.
I
If
want
it
to know
makes no
why
sense.
he's in a facility because you know those facilities, and we talked about them before. The horror stories that have come out of these
Hmm.
facilities
Hey,
is
they put my grandchild in a place called Mill Creek of Arkansas, and if you were to read the reviews on that place, it would break your heart. My grandson was in that shithole. Excuse my language.
And they don't care.
no, you're fine.
Dana, they don't care. All they care about is satisfying the narrative that they created. And that's why when we go to court, we try to fight these people. They're not winning because they're smarter than us, Dana. They're winning because they're cheating. And you got cheated out of your grandchild, like I'm getting cheated out of mine. My son's getting cheated out of his daughter because these people have absolutely no conscience, no heart. And I invite any one of the people I'm talking about, even Richard Lindsay, I invite you to come on my podcast and explain to the general public how and why you come to these determinations. Because I'd like to
Well,
know.
we take all. I mean, in your case, my advice to you, Dana, is that I would pick up the phone and call the Department of Justice in Washington D.C. They came in here and they were ordered in 2020 5 years to get all the children that's been sent out of West Virginia back into West Virginia and no more to be sent out. So again, why in 2022 was Dana's grandbaby sent out of state?
Because they don't follow
Because
the
his
laws.
mother's gone. Because his mother's gone, and the only person that he has is his grandpa. So you know what that makes him? That makes him a child to be able to be disappeared.
Right.
I,
Yeah,
I
because
mean, I'm not being mean.
it's the truth. Because if you don't know where he is for sure, what's the difference? That's the same thing as being disappeared. If I don't know where you are,
RFK
you
said it.
disappear.
It's
I don't know where you are. You
trafficking.
disappeared.
It's trafficking.
What who's getting cheated the worst is this child. I should be able to see him getting off the bus. I should be able to, buy him something for Christmas like I do my others. Tell him I love him like I do my other kids.
The thing is, Donna, once CPS gets involved in your life, they get complete, total control.
And then the thinking
It's
of it
horrible.
would be better off for the child if you didn't talk to him or if you didn't. Listen, I have a child and I have enough sense to know the more people that love your children, the better off your child will be in this life.
And there's no such thing as too much
Too
love.
much love. There's no such thing.
Yeah,
So,
and all they
yeah,
set out to do is break that love. They break it like it's a bad habit,
oh yeah.
man.
Well,
So
Dana
Dana,
Joe will give you my number so you can call me, and we will definitely try to locate him.
so
Okay,
Dana,
great.
Dana, what's your objective now? I mean, it's almost a rhetorical question because I know what it is. I know what my I know what mine would be. What's your what would be satisfactory to you at this point?
Well, they claim I'm too old to have him and whatnot. I would like to at least talk to him. Maybe even someday go down and see where they got it put away at. He has to know people here. He has to know the people out here love him, man. There's so many kids in these places. They don't have anybody, any family at all. this child, he has people that love him, you know.
You know,
And
Dan, even if they concluded that you were too old, I believe you're what, 69?
yeah,
Well, I'm 67. Okay. If someone told me that I'm too old to take care of my granddaughter, I would think you're a lunatic.
Well, my husband's 67 years old. We have a
Ridiculous.
17-year-old daughter.
It's ridiculous. It doesn't
That's
make any
insane.
sense. It's discriminatory, and
It
they're doing it
is.
because
It
they
is.
can.
It is. And you do have a good case on civilly to file to try to rectify this due to your disability because they can't discriminate. That's in the Constitution.
Yeah, you have a legitimate disability, and they're telling you you can't raise a child because you're disabled. There are plenty of disabled people that have children. I mean, that's a slap in the
Every
face
day.
to a huge
absolutely.
a huge community. It's darn cold, I swear.
I mean, you know, like I say, my daughter was under investigation because of, you know, uh, she's having behavior problems with him in school, and you know, and I think I know, have the reason in that. You know, too many people spend too much time on the cell phones, you know, and whatnot, and she get him up and get him in a hurry in the morning. Of course, he go to school sometimes and have a bad day, but you know, but you have problems in school. Of course, it's going to stem from home. And when they investigated, they came up here to visit, and like I say, they took him out of the home then. But you know, but they let her have him back. You know, and like I say, you know, it's been a nightmare.
Well, you know, there's other solutions. If a kid is not adapting well in school, you know, let's get the kid some help. Okay, let's find out what's going on with the kid because kids only act out if there's something wrong. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, if it's just he don't want to be around other kids, then there's homeschooling that he can get on the computer. So and then he can be with you because you're disabled, and you can teach him how to be a young man. You know, as a grandpa should get to do.
Right. I mean, you know, because he don't know this. Damn, I was not the only guy. You know, it is life. You know.
Did you take your grandson fishing and stuff like that into the park? And because that's what I
Well,
do with my
yeah, well, I never
granddaughter.
got to take him fishing or camping. So but we got a city park just a few blocks away.
Hmm.
Yeah, we get a top or a snack and go down there and spend hours together. You know.
Oh,
I know I would do it in the heat. It didn't matter if it was 100 degrees out. I'd sit out there and sweat and bake while she's running around playing with her friends. And it's such a joyful thing to be a parent. And then when you become a grandparent, it's even more joyful because at that point you're more financially secure. You're able to do more things. You're not working as much. So
Right.
I spent so much time with my granddaughter because she lived in the same property as I did, and literally, and I mean, I saw her every day since practically she was born. And you get really, really close to them, and nobody knows my granddaughter better than I do, even her parents. We
nobody
all know, we
has
know her very well.
nobody has the right to take our children
Nobody
away.
has the right to
They
take
don't.
our children away.
They just don't. And for as easily as they're doing it, it is wrong. And let me say again, this, what is going on, even with, I'm going to go into the PDD thing. Listen, when you don't think that there's evil in this world that we cannot fathom,
Here you go.
we're in it.
Here you go.
And we're in it. We're in it. And it is about our children. It is about good and evil, right and wrong.
It really is.
And, the psychiatrists have even proven, when children aren't with relatives and families, it's, they're able to create generational of trafficking and this and that. So this is a deliberate and it's cruel and And it's evil. It is evil at its finest.
And you know what really illustrates its evil? Because as time goes on in your case, okay, what happens with CPS, the guardian ad litem, the attorneys, and the judge, if they don't have any solid evidence that you're a bad parent, they make it up. They literally make it up. And then they expect you to accept that. And when you fight or rebel against that, these accusations, they're
Get
gonna
mad.
they get upset. They get wild. And then they really come up with the even more serious accusations. And the problem you have is just like with this Ryan Ball. What happens here is when they make all these accusations up, okay, that they cannot prove because they never happened, the court takes them seriously, and you can't do anything about it because they claim immunity. This immunity thing is the reason why we're here, because, you know, just imagine if you had immunity. You can go into a bank and rob it tomorrow, right?
Right.
You can, stop signs
No
would mean nothing.
consequences. When you don't have consequences to your actions.
You
And
can run
I'm
them
going to
up.
say something, I'm going to say this, and this is probably going to be a little controversial, but like I'm telling you, if you go to that podcast and watch what I'm watching, you're going to get and see where I'm coming from. Let me tell you something. If a child is with its parents or its grandparents and it's in a family environment, if that child is saying not being treated the best or any of that, would you rather really not have a perfect stranger not treating them well, or at least somebody that does have it? You know, I hate to say that, basically whipping the butt. Would you rather have family doing it or a stranger? I mean, you know,
That's right.
because that's what's happening in these foster care systems, and there's no recourse for them.
You know, the thing I noticed about my granddaughter is from the time she was a very young baby, she knew who I was and she respected that. And she knows I'm her papa, her real papa, where she knows we're related, we're blood. And there's a connection there. You know, there's a blood
Yes,
connection. There's something about uh, being blood related that's different than being non-blood related. And
it
I'm not suggesting
is.
that people that adopt children don't love their kids,
Right,
but I could tell you one thing, it's not the same. You would like it to be.
right.
You could fantasize it is, but at the end of the day, Lada, when you look at your daughter, who do you see? You see you, don't you?
Yeah, I mean,
You can't do that with an adopted child.
I,
Hey, I see
I could
myself
be
in every
good
one
and
of my
love
kids.
any child. I know
Mm-hmm.
that I'm capable of that, but the unconditional love that comes with your own child,
It's
like
off the
when you
charts.
grow your child, it has to be different.
It's just like you, Dana. When you look in when your little boys, you know, holding your hand and you're walking across the street and he's protected by you and he looks up at you with them beautiful eyes and a smile. Doesn't that put like a thing through your heart that nothing else does?
We love. I raised kids by myself, so I love my kids. But when you have grandkids, it's a different kind of love, you
It
That's
know.
really
what
is, man.
my daddy said. My mom and dad said you love your children, but it's different with your grandchildren.
It
It's
most certainly is.
Absolutely.
And you know, another thing too is, you know, you live your whole life, you try and be a good person, pay tax, all the other fun stuff. Then you get into your wonder years, you know, and all you really want to do is just kick back, relax, and enjoy the fruits of your labor and show expressions of love to your family members that you probably weren't allowed to be able to do when you were younger because you're working so much. You know, your children don't see you as often. But when you become a grandparent, you know, it's different because now you get to see your grandkids whenever you want. So in your case, with your grandson prior to this happening, how often did you see him?
Every day.
Every day.
oh my
You went from
god.
just like me, you went from every single day to no day, and they expect you to accept that as the new norm. I mean, how do they even
I'm
do
not
this?
accepting it.
You can't accept
Well,
it.
and you know they don't even refer to as children as children. They refer to them as units.
They
Okay,
do
that's how our children are referred to in the
as a
system
unit.
as
That's right,
units.
units.
So Wording, let me tell you something. Wording is very serious.
It
You
really
know,
is.
wording can change a narrative of anything. And when you use the words, that have 12 units in foster care, that takes the humanization side away from it. You know, it, because units instead of two children, because don't humanize it.
Yeah, I remember the first time I read that. They referred to children as units. I was flabbergasted. I'm like, I can't believe they did that.
Yeah.
And yet here it is. And and as time goes on, you deal with these people, you realize that we are units to them,
Hmm.
because that's how you're treated. I'm treated like a unit. Dana, you're treated like a
Right.
unit. You're treated like a robot. You're treated like something that doesn't have a heart, a soul, any feelings. You might as well be a recorder or a TV, a completely inanimate object. We're treated like we're
Right.
inanimate objects.
And he's off in some different state
Mm.
after his mother passed, the trauma in that, and then taken away from his grandfather.
You know,
That's just, it's cruel.
Dana, you see,
Yeah, it is. This
it's
child's being
horrible.
cheated out of his childhood.
The trauma, Dana, that you're going through and I'm going through as adults is extremely traumatizing, is it not?
Oh, yes, it
Can
is.
you imagine it not being traumatizing to him?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, that boy. I wouldn't want to imagine what he's been through. You know, when they sent him down to Arkansas in 2023, about a month and a half later, I got to have fun with him for about 7 or 8 months until he had a spell at Christmas time. That's when they stopped us talking. So anyhow, at about a month and a half after he was there in Arkansas, he got to call me. The very first time I got to talk to him, he's like, Papa, I got beat up. And they got him in a crap hole where he's going to be beat up and abused.
Right.
And these children are coerced to.
Well, that's what
to
I was thinking. They probably sent him off to a home because he's not going to be submissive. He's not going to lay down and let someone be mean to him. So and therefore it's about breaking his spirit. And then, like I said, our children, we are in a mess. And I just get so frustrated because I don't know how to fix it.
Then they wonder why our children that go through these events, when they get older, they end up in prison.
Right. Well,
right.
they're institutionalize them off the rip.
It's like training your child to be part of the system for the rest of their lives.
But what kills me is the money that's being wasted flying these social workers all over the country to visit these kids.
Well, you say that, but see, they get reimbursed, and so too does the state with profits. So, believe me, everything that they do is for profit.
Yeah.
Everything they do is for profit.
They fly these women down there, they rent them a motel, they rent them a car, and you know good and well they're going to vacation while they're there.
And they're big shots. They're the big shot, you know?
Place, so they send them to Florida.
Well, that's why we try and out the CPS workers that are corrupt like this Christina Farmer. Now, I don't know, how bad she is, but from what I hear, she's not exactly,
my particular worker wasn't Christina Farmer.
Yeah, you had a different one, but they're all the same in terms of, not all, but generally speaking, more often than not, the ones that progress at CPS have to be heartless. You're not going to progress with them if you're a kind, loving soul. It's just not in their DNA. I don't know why, but it isn't. I guess the reason is because you're not going to be able to terminate parents' rights if you have a heart. And that's how they make their money.
I can remember a time CPS, and my husband and I were talking about this. To get a child taken away from its parents, I mean, it had to be extreme. Like, there had
Yeah.
to be some really serious, extreme danger going on. And that was icky at best. And then, I've said, and I've thought of the timeline. When did we shift? When did we shift? Bill Clinton's there.
Yeah. When he made it profitable to adopt.
Yep.
And that's the thing. We have to get, if we can get it to the point where it's not profitable to adopt, two things are going to happen. One, there's not going to be a lot of children. There's not going to be as much children removed from their families, because if you have nowhere to put them, or if the states have to come up with the money, they're going to be less likely to terminate your parenthood if it comes out of their pocket. But right now, they profit from taking your child out from the federal government, so they're incentivized.
Oh yeah, well see now they probably get my grandson's Social Security from his mother. His mother.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Of course they do. Of course they do.
You know, I know of people. I've talked to men that are paying child support, and the supposed recipients never received it. So social workers and CPS workers are actually literally confiscating child support from men that are working their butts off to pay their child support. Huh?
No doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's a lot of guys I know that are struggling just to make their child support, working 2 jobs or whatever. And here, the children and the recipients not even getting it. I mean, what the heck is going
Do you
on,
know how
man?
our government, I just want to throw this out here to you guys since we was talking about institutions and having him in a home. Do you know how our state or our government, and when they decide to like build a new prisons, or how many prison cells do they need open in the future? Do you know when that's determined? When our children are in the 3rd grade, do you know what it's determined on? Families. Families, whether they come from a broken home, drug addicts, whether they're loved. 3rd grade. At the 3rd grade level is when our government and state
It's
start
like
with.
demographics. They do the math on it, and they say, okay, 10 years from now, we'll probably need X amount of cells based on.
It's a fact. I can send you the
Yeah,
article. I read it today.
I know. I've heard that before, and
Well, you know,
it makes
these
sense.
supermax prisons and stuff, they're not built by the government. They're built by private organizations.
And investors,
And
exactly.
the government has to keep them so full.
Exactly. They sign a contract to keep them so full. Yes, they do.
They need inventory. They're called inventory. And,
Yeah.
You know, and it's what they refer to them as, because at the end of the day, that's what they are. Every prisoner is equal to profit. Even though it costs a lot of money for the prisoner to be there, it's profitable.
You've got probation and parole. The only people that should be in prison: child molesters, people who rape somebody, and murder. Other than that, embezzlement, stuff like that. Well, guess what? You're gonna have to work, and you're gonna have to pay them back, and you're gonna have to do probation. You know what I'm saying? But we are the most incarcerated nation, and we start with their youth because we don't invest in our youth. The reason that baby's having such a hard time is because that baby's a fighter. He's not he's not clearly a go with the flow. Somebody at that foster care house was probably trying to hurt him.
It's sad that the murderer could appeal a judge's decision, but you know, they make a decision in a child case, and I can't appeal a judge's decision. I mean, it's just not right.
Well, you know, we're trying really hard to fix that, though, Dana.
This judge never laid eyes on us, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing, you know, I noticed in a lot of my lawsuits. Most of my lawsuits, believe it or not, are settled through U.S. mail. You don't even enter into court. it gets dismissed because, once again, every case I've ever had dismissed was based on one premise only: immunity. And let me tell you, all the parties, Dana.
They better put the case law to back up
But they
why
don't care.
yours didn't count.
They don't care about case law. They cheat. So at the end of the day, Dana, every single individual involved in your case that broke the law, and sounds to me like everyone did, including the judge, can be held liable if they were held accountable. And believe me, if they were held accountable, they wouldn't be doing this in the very near future. So it comes down to that, man.
It doesn't matter if his mom was on drugs. Especially after his mother passed. There's zero reason that child shouldn't have went to his grandfather.
I'm appalled that they used your disability as any form of reason whatsoever. That just, I mean, especially with the laws regarding protecting of disabled people, man.
Right.
I mean, really?
Yeah, you have a very good case.
You got a civil rights case right there alone.
For sure.
Yeah, that's what I thought also.
Yeah, for sure.
Civil rights have been violated, so is a still child.
Yeah, they haven't.
If your child, if your grandbaby's in a home, it's 9 o'clock, Joe. If your grandbaby's in a home, we find out what home. It's just like prison, basically, for kids. He's allowed to get married.
Right.
Well, listen, Dana, our hour's up. I'm gonna make a blanket statement to you. I hope you take me up on it. We can help you file a civil rights lawsuit in terms of, regaining access to your child.
Getting back to the state of West Virginia.
Yeah, I will give you Edda's phone number. She's really good at that stuff, trying to find where your child's at, and then we can do the research to see, where you need to go, what state to go to for a federal law or whatever lawsuit to be able to obtain. At the very least, you're looking for is communication. You want to be able to communicate on a regular basis and then move forward from there. But at this point, I mean, not seeing your child at all is horrible. What's that now?
He's got to be back in the state of West Virginia. There wasn't supposed to be a child left the state of West Virginia since 2020. So we'll start there. We'll find him, but we'll call Washington. We'll call the DOJ, and we're going to find out why West Virginia is still sending our children out of state when they were told they had 5 years to get every one of them back here and not to send out another one.
And once we find it out, then, you're going to be prepared to file a lawsuit of sorts to motivate them to
do the right thing.
And we'll help you with that, to motivate them to do the right thing. And believe me, it's an uphill battle because they cheat. They definitely cheat. That's why I try and encourage people to try and stay away from courts at the state level. Try and move your thing, just bypass and go right to federal level, because the state level, they don't even make any sense.
They're corrupt. They're
they don't
corrupt.
Even make any
They're
sense.
bought. They're bought and paid for, guys.
They sure are. They sure are. And you could tell by the way they conduct themselves.
Each other.
When I went to court,
to me, once they are found, especially like say in your case, once one of them is found guilty of anything, then at that point they had the ability to reach out to everyone else. That makes it a RICO, and we've actually spoke about that. That's conspiracy.
We need a RICO. We need a RICO. We need a RICO conviction because they work as a team. They cannot be successful unless they work as a team, and that's just the way it is. But that being said, Dana, I really appreciate you coming on. Definitely call me, and let's keep in touch. Let's try and figure out a way for you to be able to see or talk at the very least to your grandchild. So, like I said, I'll give you Edda's number. You can give her a call. The first step is finding out where he's at, and then once we find out where he's at, then we'll find out the legal processes on, where to file, how to file, and we'll help you
The
with all
DOJ
the
should be
filing.
able to take care of this, really, to be honest, with just to get him back to West Virginia.
Yeah.
And then we start the fight from there. But we need to let the DOJ know that West Virginia is still sending children out of the state after they were ordered not to.
Yeah.
Wow.
The state of West Virginia doesn't. They really are bad on following laws. They are really
And
bad
guess
at following
what?
laws.
That makes them responsible. And you got a disability, and they seen him out of the state of West Virginia. You have a heck of a federal suit.
Well, Dana
Now,
was
the way I understand CPS, the state of West Virginia does have custody of my grandchild.
Yeah, they're getting his check. Yeah, of course they do. Mm-hmm.
Beg your pardon?
they're receiving his check. Yeah.
But how does the
Right.
state of West Virginia have custody of a child that's not even in the state of West Virginia?
It's crazy, man. But listen, Dana, we have to get off. Keep in touch. You got my number,
Dana, for
okay?
sure. Pick up the phone and give me a call, and we will see what we can do.
Take care, Dana.
Hey,
Good night,
Dana.
Thanks for calling, Dana. We'll be talking to you soon, okay? Thank you, man.
Nice talking to you. Bye.
Thank you. Well, another, crazy story with the grandfather. All this guy wants to do, like I want to do, is have a natural relationship with your grandchild. And once again, the system goes out of its way to make sure that that's not possible.
Well, to use his disability against him,
Man,
that's horse shit.
it's unconscionable.
I mean,
it really is unconscionable.
He's raised children already. Clearly he's capable.
Like I said, the state, our government actually believes they know how to raise our children better than we do. And that is just garbage, man. That is pure garbage. Well, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close out our podcast tonight. I'm going to now. Here's the thing, okay? As promised, I'm going to keep you apprised of the progressions or degressions, if you will, of the court cases I'm personally involved in. We talked about the one with Richard Lindsay. I'm going to go ahead and let you know the progression of that when it gets into the.
Take a screenshot of that, anyone.
And Etta, can you put up that picture of Christina Farmer one last time?
I'm holding it up right now. Tell me everybody to grab a screenshot.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, call 304-205-3869. If you've had interaction with her, look, the good, the bad, and the ugly, she's innocent to proven guilty. We understand that. But right now, we have a lot of evidence suggesting she's not exactly the pillar of the community. So if you're a friend of hers, come forward, let us know, because like I said, we want to protect. If she truly is innocent, we just assume protect her, but that doesn't seem to be the.
To me, this young lady right here, I'm actually would like to reach out to her because I'd say she has a host of information to tell.
Yeah, and I tell you, if her back is to the wall, and let's say she was ordered to do certain things, she might have to turn state's evidence to save her own hide. Oh, I'd love to be able to talk to her. I'd love to be able to talk to her. And we would be lightweight with her. We would give her the benefit of the doubt like we're doing now.
I mean, I can get in touch with her over through the jail ATM.
Okay, well, here's the deal then. Christina Farmer, if you're out there or friends of hers, we cordially invite her on our podcast for her to give the world a view of what really happened from her perspective.
CPS, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have a problem with that.
She could be taken. Listen, we say allegedly because she could be set up, taking the fall for something else. We don't know the behind the scene details. So that's what I'm saying. We just can't say somebody's guilty without having all the information. And
especially when CPS is involved.
Especially when CPS is involved.
Holy mackerel. When they're involved, there is no limit to the tragic way that they treat people and corner them and lie about them. I guarantee you, if they hurt us as citizens, they are definitely willing to hurt their own.
Well, that's why understaffed. So you know what I'm
they're
saying.
not
But yeah,
quality people.
I'll definitely reach out to the jail she's in, and I'll send her a email.
Well, as usual, Ed, I'm going to say good night to you.
Good night, baby.
And for our listeners, once again, I try to say this at every podcast. We are not anti-CPS. We are pro-justice. Thank you very much. Good night.